Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks, and this evening I'm joined by...
Hey, Mum.
Chantal.
Mark.
Rob.
And we've just finished playing Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Now, this is a huge game, as you see. It's basically a 4X sort of combat, kill everyone game, but there's an awful lot going on, so I'm not going to explain all of it by any means, so I'm just going to give you a few highlights. Essentially, each player takes a race like this, which is going to have various starting ships, so you have lots of different types of ships. Your board here shows you the abilities of each of the different types of ships. So, for example, how much you have to spend in terms of resources to buy them, what they need to... When you're rolling dice, combat's pretty important, so let me just explain this quickly. You roll dice, and each ship, you have to get the combat number or above to hit. So 5 is actually very good, whereas 9 is very hard to get 9 or above, so that isn't so good. So you can see how good the different ships are. They move a certain number of spaces, and they can hold certain troops. So the little flags kind of represent infantry, and as you spread out around the map, you're moving your ships and dropping the infantry off to get the planets. Now, planets are very important because they give you 2 types of resources. So you can spend the top one here to get more ships, technologies and things, and the bottom one's influence, which you can use to vote on various political laws that will come into play, which I'll talk about a bit later. Essentially, you're trying to get, it's the first one to get to 10 victory points here, and each round a different card to turn over, which is giving you different objectives to aim for, and at the end of each round you can complete any one of these you like to try and get the victory points. A lot of them involve conquering various types of territory, but in terms of how you actually play the game, the interesting thing is you've got these 8 different roles you can pick, and we each take turns to pick one of them. So maybe I take the leadership role, and then someone else goes to the politics role. So we assign all these roles, and then they resolve in order. So leadership's going to happen first, which means I will get the first turn. And I don't have to do that. You can spend, you have these tokens essentially which determine how many actions you're going to get. And so you could stick it in a particular zone here, and that would let you partly move troops in there, and if you can build things, you could build in that unit as well, but you could potentially move them from different zones into that one. So you could stick it in someone else's one and attack them, but once you've moved them in, once this thing is here, you can't activate this again. So you can't build here again, you can't move the ships out of here, so moving around the board can be quite tricky. You have to think about when you're going to place this, because you don't want to sort of get all your troops stuck in one place because you've already stuck the thing there. So alternatively, instead of moving things around the board, you can activate your sort of special ability. So this gets me more of the tokens you need to move things around the board. And just very quickly, the other ones, diplomacy locks down one of the tiles so that no one can fight you there. Politics essentially lets you go first and lets you pick a couple of the political cards. Construction lets you build a couple of the space station type things which you use for producing ships. Trade is quite nice, and they've changed that from TI3 to TI4. Essentially, you get these trade goods. So everyone has a certain capacity for commodities, but you can't use your own commodities. So I might produce my 3 commodities, but then I would say to A-Bomb, who's got producing 4 commodities, oh, let's trade. I'll give you 3 for 3 or something, and he says that's a good deal. And they turn into trade goods, which are very useful because you can spend these for all kinds of things. They're like the influences on and the resources on the planets, but they're kind of wild. You can use them for anything. So you always want to trade, and people will trade according to who they're next to. So if you don't have ships on the board next to someone, you can't actually trade with them. So moving around, you're not necessarily fighting. You might just want to move up to them so that you can trade. Warfare helps you when you're fighting. Technology is another important point. You have a whole stack of different technologies. These are the ones I built throughout the game. And it's a nice little prerequisite thing. So you can see in order to build this particular technology, I needed to have 2 green ones already. So these were the first 2 green ones I built. And they all help you in various ways. So this one, for example, lets me get a couple of action cards. Action cards are used in combat. They're going to help you. Sorry, those are the victory point ones. So this is going to give you a direct hit on a particular ship when you're fighting. So just finally then, the last round, the card didn't explain. The Imperial one is just a way of scoring extra victory points. So at the start of some of the rounds, you're also going to draw these political cards, and you kind of vote on them, which is quite nice. So you vote sort of for or against, and it might change the rules in some way. So in this case, each player would stick all their trade goods back, or if you vote against it, then you can sort of put them back in your supply. So these kind of help some people potentially or hinder other people, but you're kind of voting on as to whether or not it's going to be very useful. So that's just a very brief overview, an awful lot going on, but essentially you run around conquering various territories in the map, use resources to try and score the objectives to get up to 10 victory points. First person to 10 wins the game. What do we think?
Yeah, it's a great game, but it's a long game. This is an all-dayer. I think we've taken just under 8 hours, including a little break for food and rules explanation for 5 players, but it is a long game. It's a good game. I'd say compared to TI3, I would have recommended anyway. This is better. The trade element is really good. The idea you have to be next to people makes you actually get a little bit close and up and personal with people. Yeah, it's just really good. Fun.
Okay, Chantal?
It's not only the game that has improved, it's also the components, and I think the art has given a glossy finish as well, so everything looks nicer. So I would definitely recommend the 4th edition if you can over the 3rd edition, even though I like the 1st edition a lot.
Okay. Mark?
Okay, yeah, this is what it is. As everyone said, it's long, it's big. You're going to kind of know whether you want to play a game like this before you even step into it. It's if you like the old games like Masters of Ra and the PC and whatever. It's just one of those things you're going to like or not. Yeah, I agree with everything. This version it's got loads of little tweaks all across it, whether the technology or the trade, but they all make a lot of little areas just that bit better and improve it all across the board. Yeah, it's long, it's big, but it's very funny. You can't play anything else like it.
Okay. Rob?
Well, I don't like sci-fi games. I don't like dudes on a map game. So it's not for me, but I did really enjoy this. I'd rather play this for 6 hours than like Eclipse or Forbidden Stars, which I hate. So yeah, I really liked it, yeah.
Rating?
I'm going to mark it down because of the game length, so I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, it's a 10 for me, I'm afraid.
Chantal?
3rd edition, I gave it a 7. I think this one is an 8.
Okay. Abon?
I think I'll give this an 8. It's a long game, that's the only thing, as everyone else says. But yeah, 8.
Okay. Yeah, it's long, but you'll find you're thoroughly engaged throughout. There is so much to think about. You know, you're planning which ships can I build this time, where do I want to activate, you know, in terms of the different hexes on the board, because that whole thing about moving around the board is really quite tricky. You have to sort of build up and then gradually swoop in. There are secret objectives as well sometimes, so people might move to certain hexes, not necessarily because they want to control it, but because they're trying to go for the secret objectives to get the victory points. Lots of hidden things with the tactics cards in combat as well. You go into combat, you can never be quite sure if you're going to win or not. And I like all of that sort of unpredictability. You know, an overwhelming force is going to win, but sometimes people can pull things sort of from up their sleeve, as it were, and change the course of a battle. So loads to enjoy really with this game. Just the last thing I'd say is the technology tree I really enjoy in terms of that upgrade system. There are loads of technologies you can pick from. You can upgrade all your ships as well, so they get better abilities. Just loads and loads of stuff to do. It is long. If you're happy sitting there for the 6, 7, 8 hours, it's a fantastic experience and I'd highly recommend it. I think I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's a superb game for what it is. All right, thanks very much for watching. That was Twilight Imperium 4.